Good morning and welcome to Tea with Brittany Lee. I'm so glad you're all here. Today I'm very excited because I have my very good friend Michelle Smith, who ironically, I don't think Michelle even knows this, but I have an aunt and her name is also Michelle Smith. She's actually an Olympic athlete and she's won two gold medals. And so it's kind of funny to me that I'm like, oh, I work with all the versions of Michelle Smith. It's awesome. So, Michelle Smith, our trainer, she is our gold medal training department winner. So, I just want to say thank you, Michelle, for being on the webinar today. Michelle is here to talk with us today on amazing 1099 tips that will make your life easier this tax season. We did this webinar last year in January, I believe it was. So it was the beginning of this year, and it was such a rousing success that we actually just ended up deciding to do it again because it's such helpful information. And because you only do your taxes once a year, you can really easily forget how easy it is to do it in VRM, but all the steps that you need to take. So Michelle's here to give us a little enlightenment on how to make sure that we get our our tax returns done correctly and turned in 1099s and all that stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Michelle, and she's going to show her screen, and then we are going to learn how to do 1099s.
Thank you, Brittany.
No
I did not
problem.
know that about your aunt. That is very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
No
Um,
problem.
okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And let me see. Can you guys see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. Huh. It says it's showing, so let's try this. How about now?
Ta-da! We can see it.
Okay. All right, very good. Well, thank you again, Brittany. This morning we're going to go over how to populate, review, and print and create media files for your 1099s. And just like Brittany said, I think this is great to do yearly because it's very easy to forget. You only do it once a year, and also for our new clients that come aboard throughout the year, it's difficult to train mid-year on 1099, so I think this is a great benefit to them as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the 1099 setup. So there's two different ways that can be set up in the system depending on your company. The first one is 1099s for all offices. So if you have one office or multiple offices that all are under the same tax ID number, you can set your 1099s up under System Configuration, Financial, Miscellaneous tab, and it's going to be right here, 1099 setup for all offices. Okay. The other option is if you have multiple offices and they all operate under a different 1099 or tax ID number, you can set up the 1099s per office, which I give you the steps on how to get there. That's under System Configuration Company, Offices tab. You would select your office and then click 1099. The actual setup screen looks the same from either place, and that's what we see here. The transmitter control code and transmitter name, if you're filing electronically, you will want to fill that in, and you would get that information from the IRS. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the review process. This is very important to make sure that you do the review. The first review you want to do is your owner and vendor profiles. You want to make sure that the owner information is correct. Their social security number is or tax ID number is set up in the profile. Same for vendors if they're receiving a 1099. You also want to make sure that the state is abbreviated correctly if you're filing electronically, because they will send that back if it's not. If it's spelled out, the same thing, they'll send it back. Then you want to compare your 1099 summary report to your owner statements. Okay, you want to make sure that what appears in the rental income on your owner statements for the year to date matches what's on the 1099 summary. Okay, and the same thing, you want to compare your 1099 summary for your vendors to the payable by user batch report, which is under reporting services, which we'll talk about a little further in the webinar. The next thing we want to talk about is the owner and vendor profiles. So, excuse me, just like I said, you want to make sure that all the information is correct. You can pull the basic owner list and review from there, make sure that all the information set up for the owner is correct. And then if you need to make any changes, you would go directly to that owner profile and make any necessary changes. Adjustments to the social security number or the address, city, state, zip code, just make sure all of that is set up in there correctly. The vendors, we also have a basic vendor report that you can pull to review all your vendor profiles. On the vendor profiles, there's going to be a box to print 1099 because not all vendors will receive them. If that box is checked, you want to make sure that the social security number or tax ID number is set up for that vendor. Okay, and then travel agent profiles, they work pretty much the same as the vendors. There's going to be a box in there, print 1099s. If that's checked, you need to make sure that the social security number or tax ID number is in there. And again, the state is abbreviated correctly if you're filing electronically. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the tax type. So in the past, on the 1099 profiles, the system would pull if it's an individual or a business determined by the owner profile. So if we had something in the first name field, over on the 1099 profile would automatically select tax type individual. That has been changed. So now it depends on how the social security number or tax ID number is set up. So for this example, I have a name in the first name field and the last name field, but this is an LLC, so they have a tax ID number. So instead of it now pulling that this would be an individual, it's going to look at how I have this set up. Because there's one dash, it's going to come over as tax type business on the 1099 profile. If you have two dashes set up or no dashes, if you just have the number in there, then it's going to come over on the 1099 profile as individual. So again, you want to make sure that these are set up correctly if it's a tax ID number. Because if you do not have any dashes, it will default to tax type individual, not business. Okay, so that's something new for this year. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is how to populate the 1099s and print your 1099 summary. So the first thing that you want to do, this is under System Configurations 1099s. You'll go to the 1099 Info tab. You'll select your tax year that you want to populate. If you're set up for all offices, this will be grayed out. If you're set up for individual offices, you'll do this one office at a time. And then you come here and you click Populate Tax Year. Once you do that, you'll see this screen here. It's going to have all of your owners listed, and then at the bottom will be your vendors that have that print 1099 box checked on the vendor profile. And then you click the back button, which will take you back to this screen here, and then you can click Print Summary. And then this is your 1099 summary here. Okay. After this, we're going to talk about the review process because we want to make sure that these are all correct before we print any 1099s or create our media file. One thing, this has come up in the past, so I just wanted to touch on this. If you have an owner who owns multiple properties and they're requesting 3 separate 1099s, you can do that in the system. The way that you would do that is, instead of having just one owner profile and that owner profile being attached to multiple properties, you would set up 3 separate owner profiles, and each of these would be applied to one of the owner's properties. So when you pull your 1099 summary, you'll see here I have 3 separate 1099s for the same social security number, but it's because I have them set up as 3 different owner profiles. Okay, if you have them all under one owner profile, then it's going to be populate one 1099 for the total amount for that owner. So you would just take the combined rental income for their 3 properties, and that should match what that one 1099 amount is. Okay, comparing the owner statements to the 1099 summary. So the example that I have here, I have one owner who owns 2 properties. This property, she owns 100%. So we have the rental income displaying here would all belong to that owner. The other property, Michelle's Place, she's 50% owner. So what the system's going to do is look at the rental income divided by 2. Okay, so this owner here, for their 1099, it's going to be the $5,050 for the one property, and then $660 for the other property. And that should match the total for her 1099 on the 1099 summary. Okay, and that's going to come and play again if it's the ownership is between 3 owners and so on. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at your owner statements. The owner account is one account attached to the property. So when you're looking at the owner statement, the rental income is going to show the full rental income. The system doesn't break down the percentage until it pays out to the owner. So it would pay 50% of the income to this owner and 50% to the other owner. So during 1099s, we want to take the rental income divided by 2 in this case. And then we have your payable by user batch report for your vendor review. So over here, I tell you how to get to that report. If you have any problems, if you go to look at this report under accounting reports and reporting services, if you do not see it, please enter a help ticket and we will be happy to release that. All clients should have this custom report. I think we released that last year to everyone. So when you're pulling this report, you'll enter the start and end date, so the beginning of the year and the last day of the year. You select the payee type vendor, and then you have a little checkbox option to just look at the ones that have that print 1099 box checked. That way you don't have to go through the list of every vendor. You're just looking at the ones that should receive a 1099. Okay? Now, you'll have on your payable by user report, which is this one here on the left, you will have all vendors that have the print 1099 box checked. However, if they made $600 or less in that year, then they will not have a 1099 over here on the 1099 summary, because per the IRS publication 1220, you only need to send out a 1099 to a vendor that is paid $600 or more for that year. Okay. The payable by user report is going to break it down by vendor. So I have ABC Plumbing here. It's going to show then all checks that were written to that vendor for that time frame that you selected the report for. One thing to keep in mind, it will also show voided checks. Okay, now that would be a separate total at the bottom. You'll see a grand total for voided checks for that vendor. In this case, ABC Plumbing had a grand total of one payment, which included two payables for the total amount of $12.80, and that's what I should have on my 1099 summary report. Okay, so those amounts should match. The next thing we're going to look at is the 1099 record. So once you populate your tax year, this is what you'll see on your screen. Again, this will have all of your owners listed and then any of your vendors that are set up to receive a 1099. The first button we have is the back button. So that takes you back to the previous screen where you select your tax year and populate it, print your summary, print your 1099s, and create your media file. The second button is Add. If there's an owner or a vendor that's not showing up here, you have the ability to make a new entry. So this may be something helpful for our new clients. If you want to just create one 1099, you can do that in VRM. So if you have an owner who received money in your previous system from the first of the year till whenever you made the change, but they did not receive any money through VRM yet, they haven't had any rental income for the time frame you've been on VRM, you can add a new entry and create one for that owner so that you're just printing the 1099s out of one system. Okay, the next is the edit. So again, this is something that may be beneficial for our new clients. You have the ability to edit that owner profile. So again, if this owner had some income for the time frame that you were on VRM, but they also had income when you were on your old system, you highlight that owner, click edit, and then you can add the rental income that they had for the first part of the year in your old system to the rental income that they've had in VRM. Again, so you're populating one 1099. Now, the owner statement, you would have to make sure the owner has both from the old system and VRM, because from VRM, it's just going to include on their owner statement what has actually been received through the VRM system. Okay. You have the ability, the next button is delete. You do have the ability to delete an entry. One thing to keep in mind is if you delete an entry, but you're not done your 1099 review, you're still in the process of that. When you come back in to repopulate the 1099s for the tax year, it's going to repopulate that one that you deleted. So if you have, for example, a foreign owner and you're creating your media file and you cannot include that one, or they need to get the I think it's a 1042 instead of the 1099, and you need to delete that profile, you want to do that right before you're ready to print your 1099s. Because if you do it today and then you're still coming in here and reviewing your other owner profiles, make sure the amounts are correct, every time you repopulate the tax year, it will recreate that 1099 profile. Okay, the next button is flag. So you have the ability to flag a 1099 entry. So if you're doing your review and you find a discrepancy, you can flag that entry and come back to it. So that way you can continue your review of all your other owners and you know that one you need to go back to. You also have the ability up here to filter. So when you get back to looking at the entries that you had to flag, you just come in here and click on that little circle and it'll just display the 1099 entries that have been flagged. All right, and then the last button here is approve. This is very important. Once you have verified that the amounts match, what it should be for the owners or vendors, you want to approve that entry. Okay, so for example, if you're editing one of your owners to add the rental income that owner had for the first part of the year from your old software, when you make that change, you want to go ahead and approve that entry. And the reason why, again, is when you repopulate that tax year, if that entry is not approved, it will go back to what the original amount should be from what's in VRM. Okay, so the approval part is very important to save any changes that you've made to the 1099 entries. Okay, and again, every time you go back and you repopulate it, so if you are reviewing today, you get through a few of them, and then tomorrow you come back and you're picking up where you left off, you'll repopulate the tax year and then begin again. So that's why the approval button is really important if you're editing a profile or adding a profile, and deleting. That would be right before you're ready to print the 1099s or populate your media file. Okay, the next is printing your 1099s. I have included the knowledge base here for printing 1099s, so if you want to review the documentation on that, that is available in our knowledge base. Once the comparisons have been done, everything is ensured to be accurate, then it's time to print the 1099s. So to print the 1099s, we talked about this before, you would go to Accounting, and then you would go to 1099s, click on your 1099 Info tab, you select your tax year, you populate your tax year, again, do one final review, delete any maybe foreign owners that should not have a 1099 printed, and then you click the back button, and then you would click Print 1099s. When you click Print 1099s, this is what you're first going to see. You can adjust the margins. Now, you need to play around with this. What we suggest is printing the first page of your 1099s on plain paper, and then holding that up to the light to the actual 1099 form to make sure everything looks correct. If it doesn't, you need to go in and adjust those margins. VRM cannot make sure that the margins are correct for every different type of printer that's out there. So that's why we suggest doing this. Okay. And then 2 1099s print to a page. So you just want to make sure that your horizontal and vertical alignments are where they need to be before actually printing on the physical 1099 forms. The very last page of your 1099 list is your 1096. For your 1096, we suggest printing that separate. So print your 1099s, and then again, the very last page of those 1099s will be your 1096. We suggest printing that on plain paper, the same thing as with the 1099. Hold it up against the light. Make sure the alignment's correct. If it's not, play around with that alignment so that it is where you need it to be. And then once you have your alignment set up where it needs to be, then print the actual form. One thing that for our clients who have been with us or with us last year, the IRS changes these boxes around. The last couple of years, it's been hard to keep up with them. So the system does not automatically check the box for you. Everything else will be filled out above. You'll just have to come in here with a pen and X that 1099 miscellaneous box. Okay. And the next is our electronic filing media file. So this is populated. the same way. We go to accounting 1099s, and then 1099 information tab. We populate the tax year. Again, make sure any entries, 1099 entries that do not need to be included or deleted, and then hit the back button and create media file. Okay, and that media file is going to create, as you see here, in text form. And then I have included the different ways to save that text file depending on what browser you're using. They're all a little different. So that information, this will also be available for you guys on the blog, so you can refer back to this webinar at any time. Again, just to remind you that it is important to make sure the state is abbreviated correctly. We've seen that come back for clients. It's rejected by the IRS if that's not set up correctly. Okay, and that is everything. A couple little notes. The VRM does not print 1042s for foreign owners. So if you have an owner like that, you'll want to complete that form by hand. And like I mentioned before, you would delete that entry right before you're ready to populate your 1099s, printing the forms, or populating the media file. One thing I wanted to point out that we noticed in the publication 1220 from the IRS, one of the things that is listed under what's new for 2016 is that the 1099 miscellaneous, if using box 7, which is what is used for your vendors, that has to be paid by January 31st, 2017. So I just wanted to mention that so that our clients are aware. That is something that's under the what's new for 2016 area of that publication.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. That is amazing. You did such a great job. And I just want to say thank you for coming and sharing with us. And I also want to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. I have a couple of surprises for you guys. Yay! Who doesn't love surprises? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We're going to go ahead and ask questions. So if you have questions, there is a little section right there in your GoToWebinar panel where you can ask questions. Go ahead and shoot those in there, and Michelle will be more than happy to answer them. And if she doesn't have the answer, she will get it for you. So that's the benefit of being live on Tea with Brittany Lee, is that you actually get to ask your questions in real time and get answers. I did get one question during the webinar: where can I watch this webinar again? And I can actually answer that one. That question is answered by simply going to virtualresortmanager.com and going /blog. This will be posted on our blog tomorrow at 10 a.m. so you can rewatch it as early as tomorrow. Also, if you've registered for the webinar, which if you're here, you obviously did, then you are going to get a copy of this emailed to you from GoToWebinar. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll have that available for you guys as soon as tomorrow. So that is a great question. Thank you for that. It doesn't look like there's any more questions. You were very thorough, Michelle. You got everything. I think you hit all the points.
Just as a reminder, if clients have any questions as they're doing the reviews, or when they get started on their 1099s, please feel free to enter a help ticket, and we will be happy to answer any questions that you have, or direct you to our documentation if we have that. So please don't hesitate to contact us if any questions arise that you just can't think of right now.
Yes, exactly. And you can always reach our help desk team. These ladies are so diligent, and they are so knowledgeable about the VRM system. And anybody who's been on VRM for a while knows that it's humongous. It's an absolute beast to learn all of the stuff. So these ladies are like our power lifters at VRM. They know what they're doing. And they've been in the system, learning everything and taking care of everything for years now. So you can always reach them at help@vrmgr.com. So one announcement is useful tips on welcome home and discounts that you need to know. Now, don't sign off. I'm going to tell you something, and it's going to be a surprise, and it's the next slide, but I want to announce next month's Tea with Brittany Lee, which is our 2017 inaugural episode. We're very excited about it, and we are going to be sitting with Lauren and Michael from VRM, and they're going to go through Welcome Home and how to use it, how to be more effective, and to make sure that you're actually using it correctly. And they're going over our discount codes. Now, some of you may have been in our discount code, one that we did over the summer with Lauren, but we have some new features that are coming out. So make sure that you register for this one. You can go to bit.ly/TWBL 2017, and then you can register. The registration links are right there. All right, so drum roll, please. It is time for 5 insider tips to energize your social marketing. I am going to be personally doing an Instagram series. I know you guys have probably heard about Instagram and their new Snapchat-like feature, and if you haven't, that's okay. I'm going to explain. But you can go on Instagram and you can actually follow me at Tea with Brittany Lee, and I am going to be going over some insider tips, some things that I've learned out of over 7 years of doing social marketing, and things that you can do to actually energize and engage your audience on social media. That is going to be starting next Monday. All right, so make sure that you go follow me. Also, exciting news, if you're following me on Instagram, you will get to see New York in all of its holiday glory, because I am going to New York this year with my family. So I'm going to be taking some little videos and some little pictures of New York. So if you love that kind of thing, then just go and follow me on Instagram at Tea with Brittany Lee, and you can follow me and I will give you those insider tips starting Monday next week. So make sure you do that. I did get one question over here from Paula. Thank you, Paula, for putting this in. But Michelle, if foreign owners have a U.S. tax number, are they filed as 1099s or foreign? Ooh, that's a good question, Paula.
I would refer you to your company accountant. In my experience, I'm not an accountant, but in my experience in the past, if they have a social security number and they're actually a U.S. citizen, but they live overseas, that would be a 1099. But again, I would refer you to your company accountant to double check that information, or the IRS, to make sure that you're processing that as you should.
Awesome. All right, perfect. Well, I think that wraps up everything that we had today for Tea with Brittany Lee. I just want to thank you guys again for signing on. Make sure that you connect with me on Instagram. I'm super excited to do this series. This is a brand new thing that we're doing for VRM, and it's very exciting. So be sure to connect with me on Instagram at Tea with Brittany Lee. I'm also going to be posting these on our VRM Facebook page. So if you're not fans of us on Facebook, make sure you go over there and you can get those there too. All right, this is Brittany signing off for 2016, and I will see you all again in 2017. I hope you guys have happy holidays and a great new year. See you in 2017. Bye.
Thank you, Brittany.